Hello people of the tube, welcome to this next video in which I am going to be looking at doing a Q&A on the Spark amplifier. Not a video that I was planning on doing, but quite a few people have been asking me questions about the amplifier, especially now that I've had it for a short while. So I thought I'd compile a number of those questions into a short video, which might turn into be a bit of a longer video depending how things go. Now, just from the offset, a disclaimer. I don't work for Positive Grid. I have nothing to do with Positive Grid. I am a guitar beginner, so my knowledge is limited, and everything in this video is going to be my honest personal experience and thoughts on the questions that have been put to me. Like I said, it's a video that people have asked for, so I'm going to go ahead and give it my best shot. If you want a more professional, more qualified response to these questions, then I would suggest maybe, Googling around, because there's an awful lot of information that is out there. And I will probably link to a few videos and other resources below that will give some more information on some of the points that I can't cover very, very well. And the description may well be an ongoing thing that will change as people produce more material addressing the different questions. So obviously one of the first questions that I get asked is how good is the quality of the amplifier itself and the bag. Now I haven't actually got the bag with me, but the quality I think is pretty good. The bag is of good quality. I am often moving the amplifier around using the bag because, as many of you know, I'm not overly comfortable with the strap, so I use the bag a lot, and that's standing up very, very well. I don't have the carry strap because unfortunately that didn't come with my bag. I just using the handles, but I'm more comfortable with that because whilst the amplifier isn't heavy, the straps for the bag actually go around underneath, which I actually prefer. For the amplifier itself, it's standing up well to being moved around. It's standing up well to being used. It looks good on the shelf. Probably the only thing that I would pick up on it that I don't particularly like is the on-off switch. I feel that that could be a little bit nicer if we were to use the same type of knob as we've got on the top here, then it wouldn't look quite out of place. But that's probably about the only thing that I can really pick up on the quality. I did mention about the strap. I took the strap off because I wasn't overly comfortable with the makeup of the strap, but that was just a personal thing. And many people have contacted me following my uploading of the 3 things I don't like about the amp to say, what are you going on about the strap? It's just a strap, it does fine. And most people have been fine with that. So I think overall the quality is pretty good. Another really big question that a lot of people ask is, can the amp be used as a looper, or is there a built-in looper function? At the moment I'm going to say no, there isn't a built-in looper function, because there isn't, and there isn't one in the app that I have found. And the videos that I have found online when I was researching this are basically using a DAW to record a section of music, so a few bars, which they're then looping in the DAW, which they're then playing and then soloing over. So they're saying yes, you can use the Spark in a looping situation, which I guess is true, but for me I think a lot of people are saying, can you hit something in the application on your phone, on your iPad, to loop a section, and then the amp will continue to loop over that. I haven't found that, and I don't believe that that is in there. And when I'm doing looping, because I've just started to get into looping, then I'm using my looper pedal, or my Boss ME80, between the guitar and the amp, and that's working really, really well for me. So I would say, no, you can't use the amp as a looper itself. You are going to need something extra to be able to loop with it. Another big thing, particularly on my channel, because I think I was one of the first to raise my head above the parapet online, is the humming noise that you get from the amp in some countries on some electrical power supplies. Now, I'm in the UK, and I think the UK was one of the first regions to pick this up. And you can tell whether you've got the humming noise pretty much straight away. I'm not going to go into that anymore because I've got a video on that, and there's also a subsequent video with the grounded power supply which shows the before and after, so I would say go and have a look at that. But one of the things that I often get asked is, which power supply should I buy? Now, my advice, if you've got the humming issue, is to contact Positive Grid, because I have come across a few people that have bought power supplies off of Amazon and other places. They've plugged them in and they've caused their own issues by having the wrong wattage or ampage or whatever the electrical term is. And of course, in my mind, if you're not using the proper power supply supplied by Positive Grid, then you're likely to invalidate your warranty, which is something I didn't want to do. So I contacted Positive Grid, and I pretty quickly got a replacement power supply which resolved my particular issue. So I'm not actually giving any advice on which power supply should you buy. If you're going to buy your own, I would say get some good qualified advice from somebody who knows what they're talking about, rather than just people like me that are on YouTube and don't necessarily know what they're talking about. So that leads me on to the next question that a lot of people have asking me around Christmas time. The fact that the amp has now been out for a while and we're now out of the pre-release phases, which is when I bought mine, is the amp currently shipping with the grounded power supply? That's a really difficult question to answer, because from what I can see, Positive Grid never actually acknowledged the issue. At the end of the day, why would they when it doesn't affect everybody? I'm sort of with Positive Grid on that one, and I think that they've been addressing the issues when they've come up pretty well. But are they supplying a grounded supply? I am getting some reports that if you order your amp directly from Positive Grid, some of them are coming through with the grounded supply. In particular, I've heard from some people that bought the amp and bag combo recently, and they seem to be getting a grounded supply. I've also heard reports from people that are buying from Amazon and some of the other retailers that are not getting the grounded power supply. My assumption, and it is only my assumption, this isn't a qualified statement by any stretch of the imagination, is that I think Positive Grid have realised they need to supply a grounded power supply, which they're now including with their latest batch of amps. Again, I have no proof of that, and I haven't heard anything to confirm that. But I also think that, you know, some of the retailers are moving some of that older stock that's going through circulation, and we're going to need to work through that. So are you likely to get a grounded power supply? Nobody knows, and if anybody tells you otherwise, other than obviously Positive Grid, I'm not prepared to do that. I want to keep this as honest as I can, and I'm going to say it's a bit of a lottery depending on whether you do get the grounded power supply. The only thing that I would say is, in my experience, Positive Grid were quite good about getting the lead out. I just did a quick video showing the before and, you know, with the humming and everything as they wanted, and I had my new power supply through within a couple of weeks, which, you know, wasn't too bad considering the lead times for the amps was quite long at the time. I'm not going to say any more on that. It's a big subject, and my video has got a long thread where some electrical engineers are even joining in at the moment in the discussion. So go and have a look at that, and I'll link to that video below. Now, one of the other questions that comes up a lot is, how does the Spark 40 amp stack up against the Boss Katana 50? And the Boss Katana 50 seems to be the nearest competitor, both on functionality and price. So for instance, I did a quick check On Anderton's, the Boss Katana is currently £219 sterling. Interestingly, the Spark amp wasn't on Anderton's website, but looking at the current deal, it's about £215 for the Spark amp. Difficult to put a price on the Spark amp at the moment because Positive Grid continue to do deals. So at the moment they're bundling, I think, headphones and bags with it. So it gets a little bit difficult to put a value on it, but I think the two are fairly similar. Now, I only own the Spark amp. I don't own the Boss Katana, and I haven't any experience with the Boss Katana. But my research threw up a number of pros and cons. So obviously some of the cons initially of the Spark amp is, in some instances, the humming noise. Now again, in a lot of instances, particularly in America, they don't seem to get that problem. So it is only some. There is discussion about a lack of EQ on it. Again, I don't really find that too much of a problem myself. One of the issues that does come up is the pedal chain in the amp can't be reordered. And that is, I don't know whether it's an issue, but it is definitely something that, people do mention. And if I just go into my app at the moment, then the order of the pedals is the noise gate. You then got your compressor, drive, then the amp, modulation, delay, and reverb. Now, I'm not heavy into my pedals at the moment, but that does seem to be a fairly standard chain for pedals, and I have played around with it a little bit, like I said, not a lot, but a little bit, and it does seem to work okay, and you can get some nice tones. And I have seen some videos where people have been comparing the software amplifiers in the app with the real amplifiers, and they're quite close. So I think the Positive Grid have probably got the balance about right in there. But no, they can't be reordered. So if you do want to take full control, then maybe the Spark and the Spark app is not for you. But then again, you could probably set the dials to neutral and have your own pedal board. But then that does away with the benefit of a modelling amp. Yeah, it's up to you. Another one of the slight negatives is it needs the latest iOS. I'm not sure about Android, and I know there have been some updates for Android, but as in my 3 things I don't like about the amp, I couldn't use my older iPad. Now, it was an old iPad, I will admit, but I'm okay using it on my phone, although the screen is quite small. But if you want to have a bigger screen, like on an iPad, and you haven't got a suitable operating system, which I think was version 10.5 or something. I think it's a 64-bit operating system which is the issue, and I think I had a 32-bit iPad. Then you've effectively got to throw away your iPad and buy another one, which can double or even triple or worse the cost of the amp. So I have had a few people that have contacted me to say that they hadn't realised that because it isn't obvious. And 1 or 2 other people have said, thank you for picking that up because I hadn't realised, and it means I've got to spend a little bit more money. And the other thing that a lot of people talk about is when you're recording from the amp into your computer via a DAW or whatever, the sound is a bit weak, the volume is a bit low. I didn't find that to be an issue, and I think that comes up in another question, but the driver is the way to go on that. With regards to the Boss Katana, I believe, or I understand, that you need to be connected to a computer to fine-tune the tones, whereas with the Spark you don't, so that's a little bit of a negative. You've got to be lumping hardware around with you. There's obviously no Bluetooth on the speaker, and the other thing is that the sound on the amp for the Spark, you wouldn't really be able to use that at a gig, whereas I believe with the Katana you potentially could. I think that the sound is much better and the volume is much better. Pluses for the Spark. Obviously it looks great. It really does look nice. Even sitting on the shelf not being used, it looks good. You've got the tone cloud with lots and lots and lots of tones up there. That is pretty good. You've got Bluetooth on board. You've got the companion app, which is really nice, and I've done a video on that as well. And also something I couldn't do, but I saw a video the other day that was looking at the amps in the software against real amps, and the sound replication was pretty good. So I think that's a positive. So there's a lot going for the Spark. With regards to the Katana, there is great control over the tones. I think a lot more control, and you can set the signal chain order and that type of thing. I think it's a little bit more complicated to set things up, but with more complication gives you more facilities and more abilities to do things. So I think as a beginner, the Spark is a pretty good amp for me as a practice amp. And I think if you are more intermediate or advanced, then maybe the Katana might give you a little bit more. As I said, that's just what I picked up from online. I mentioned earlier on about the recording. Some people are reporting that the recording volume is quite low going into a DAW. Now, I'm not using the Studio One that is shipped with the DAW. There's lots of different DAWs that you can use, which is another question. Which DAW can I use? The Studio One Prime that ships with it seems to be absolutely fine. I'm using Reaper, and so long as you've downloaded the correct drivers from the Positive Group website, then I don't see there being a problem whatsoever. Initially the volume is quite low. Move the volume up in Reaper and the quality is quite fine. It's quite usable. So again, have a look at my video, which I will link below for that one. Can you record directly into an iPad or an iPhone? Not something that I have done. So I don't have the necessary leads to be able to connect the two up. And if I am going to record anything, then at the moment I'm recording into Reaper. There is obviously a new feature in the latest app where you can video yourself, and that will use the microphone in your phone or your iPad or your tablet, whatever your recording device. Obviously, the downside to that is that you will get ambient noise, you might get pick noise, you might get breathing and other types of noises picking up that you might not want if you're going to be recording something to create an MP3 file or something you want some good quality. So that's going to give you... I think that the video feature in the Spark app is really so that you can quickly take a video of yourself and share it on social media like YouTube. If you want to do anything serious, then I have seen reports of people using a USB-B to USB-C cable between the device and your amp, and then you can record into GarageBand and other things like that, and that's obviously then going to give you a much better quality, so no ambient noises, breathing, pick hit noises and that type of thing. So I think if you want to record some quality sound, then again you need to do a little bit of homework on that. Another question, can I control the amp solely from the app and not use the knobs on the top? Some people say to set the knobs to 0 and then just use the app, and that seems to be quite possible. I tend to have, as I've got now, most of my knobs are set to 12 o'clock. Obviously you'll need to have the output set higher, otherwise you won't get anything out the amp. But I tend to have them set to 12 o'clock, and then I'm using the app to pick an amp and the tones that I want, and I tend to change the different values in there using the knobs. Tends to be a slider in the app. It works quite well, and when I'm doing that I tend not to use the knobs. So yeah, I think that you can pretty much use the app for that. And of course you've got voice operated features, which is something I haven't particularly used yet. This is a question that I did address in my 3 things I don't like. I think it was in that video, because there was a lot of talk, and there still is a lot of talk, and that is, can I use the Spark amp as a gigging amp? It became a very emotive question, and I got a lot of thumbs down on it, because people were saying, well, why on earth would you use a practice amp for a gigging amp? And I totally agree with that. I think that the Spark amp is purely a practice amp for use at home. I have heard some reports of some people using it at small intimate venues like a party or a small gathering, a small wedding. There's been a few of those during the lockdowns around the world. But no, I don't think that you really want to buy this as a gigging amp. I think if you're going to go that route, I believe the Boss Katana gives you a little bit more. This is a 40 watt amp. I'm assuming the Boss Katana is 50. Whether the extra 10 gives you enough, I don't know. But my advice is, don't buy this as a gigging amp. Buy it purely as a practice amp, which is how it is marketed. It's marketed as a practice amp after all. A lot of people talk about the noise gate, and a few people have asked me, what is the noise gate? Now, the noise gate is one of the pedals in the app. It is the first pedal in the chain, and it basically gives you a threshold and decay that you can set. And it does allow you to remove some of the unwanted noise in the amp. So a lot of people, when I originally mentioned about the humming noise, they thought that I was talking about just the acceptable noise that you do get in these amps, and to use the noise gate. Now, the noise gate did not address my humming issue. It's totally different. But when I am using the tones, one of the first things I do is to set the noise gate, just so that that is cleaning up the sound as much as possible. And I think the noise gate is on just about every one of the chains. One of the questions was, can the order of the pedal be changed? I think I said earlier on that it can't. It's sort of one of the downsides. It is a preset order, which I went through, and my experience is the order works quite well. So whether you want to change the order, I don't know. Why you would want to change the order, I don't know. I'm not that experienced. Maybe somebody will pick that up in the comments below, and if you have got some input on that, then please do comment below for the benefit of other people. But I think if you want to take more control over the chain and the order of things, then probably the Boss Katana is the way that you want to go. Another question I've had is, how good is the quick jam? I'm not good enough at playing the guitar to comment on this one. Initially there were 3 jamming options where you could pick 3 particular rhythm guitarists, I think it was, that would play. I did notice the other day, following a software update, that there's now 3. I've tried using it a couple of times, but it didn't really work for me. But I think that's because I'm a beginner and I wanted something specifically as a backing track to jam along with. It's probably something that I will grow into, but probably not something for beginners, probably something for intermediate and advanced people. Now, I have done some research, and some people love it and some people hate it. So again, I'm not going to comment too much on that one, because it does seem to be a little bit personal to the individual. The next question, can you use the Spark to learn songs? The Spark app seems pretty okay and pretty good at analysing songs, and it takes a little bit of time, but that will then suggest the chords. It's not necessarily my bag at the moment, and I would say that it is probably not a feature for beginners, because the tracks that I've had analysed, the chords, the word I will use, are quite exotic. They're not your standard chords that most beginners learn. there was some really complicated chords in there that I think would make that a little bit more difficult for beginners. So I think beginners will probably be back to using YouTube videos and sort of more basic things. But I think if you are intermediate or advanced, then maybe that could be quite a useful feature if you want to strum along to songs and use that particular feature. Then of course there is the jamming to Apple Music or Spotify. I don't use Apple Music, but I do use Spotify, and I have used that feature for a number of my videos. So I'll find a suitable track on Spotify, I will then go into the app, pull that up, and then you can have that backing track playing through the Spark amp whilst you're playing over the top. And I find that works really well. Now most of the videos that I've done where I've been playing along have been using that feature. They're not necessarily in the right key, but I'm using it to be able to make sure that I'm playing along at the right speed and the right tempo and the like. But obviously if you've got a video or a track on Spotify in the right key, then I think that's a really nice feature and it works really well. And you heard at the beginning of this video I was just using the amp from Spotify just as a Bluetooth speaker, and the quality is quite nice. So that leads me on to the next question: can the amp be used as a Bluetooth speaker? Well, yes, as you heard, you can. That was literally my phone, Bluetooth straight into the speaker. I picked a track in Spotify, hit play, and it came straight out. It's caught me out a few times where I've been practicing and I've left the amp on and the volume up. I've then come downstairs to listen to Spotify, and suddenly there's this enormous noise upstairs. So it does catch you out from time to time, but it's a really nice sound, and I do like that very much. I haven't been successful in hooking it up from my laptop via Bluetooth, but I now use an aux cable if I want to do that. But I've got a Google Home Hub and I tend to run Spotify through that. But if you want a bit more punch and a bit more volume, then this is a nice speaker to hook up to that. I haven't been successful in hooking it up to Alexa or the Google Home Hub though. Whether that is possible or not, I don't know. I just haven't been able to work it out. And if anybody has, it would be great if you could comment below. And I apologise, the sun has just started to break through the clouds, so hopefully we'll be okay and I will press on. So yeah, Bluetooth, it's a really nice Bluetooth speaker through the phone. You've got the aux cable, but otherwise it can be a little bit more limiting in certain areas. So the next question is, can I run the app on a PC or TV, particularly as it's quite small? Why you would want to run it on a TV when it's touchscreen, I'm not sure. So I don't really understand why people have been asking that. I haven't been able to run it directly on my PC because it only seems to be iOS and Android apps that are supported. But I do believe that there are apps that you can download to be able to run, in particular iOS, on a laptop, and that may well be the way to go. But I don't have any recommendations. It isn't something I've done, and you would need to find a piece of software that emulates the app adequately. So again, it would be a case of doing some homework on that. The favourite out there seems to be to use a dongle from a USB in your tablet, so not necessarily from a phone, but if you've got a tablet with a USB port on it, use a dongle and then push that out to HDMI and pick that up on the computer. Right, sorry about that, the camera cut off for a moment. So the next question is, what is Positive Grid's customer service like? And as I was saying, this is a really difficult question for me to answer, because if you look online, some people are saying it's really good, some people are saying it's really bad, and obviously everybody has different experiences. And the other thing as well is, in my experience, people tend to like to complain more than they like to compliment. So what I'm going to do is to take my experience, and I've had two occasions where I've needed to contact support, and I did it on both occasions through the Positive Group website. The first was about the humming issue when I first got the amp. I was asked to, I actually did the submission through the website. I got an automatic reply back fairly quickly to say that the case had been logged, and I think in both occasions I had a response from a human being probably within 24 hours or so, so fairly quickly. I certainly couldn't complain about that. And on both occasions the response was positive. On the first one they just wanted some information and a video, which was standard back in the day, of the humming issue. They agreed with the issue and I had a new cable sent out straight away. That took about between a week and 2 weeks to arrive, which wasn't too bad, considering I think it came from America or China, one or the other, to the UK. But the result was handled very quickly, and that was pretty good. With regards to the strap missing from the bag, again, they just wanted some proof. Very difficult to do proof of a strap missing from a bag. How do you photograph something that isn't there? But they just said straight away, send the bag back and we'll send you out a replacement. I wasn't too worried about not having a strap. I can source one if I really want to use it. So I didn't actually take up their offer, but the offer was there without any argument and pushing. So I think that the customer service is pretty good, in my opinion. It isn't something that would encourage me not to buy the Spark amp. So I guess the last question is, what score would I give the amp out of 10? I've given this a little bit of thought and I would probably give it a 7. I very much like the look of the amp. I think it looks really nice on the shelf. You never get tired of looking at it. It feels as if it's pretty well made. There's a nice number of good features in the application that comes with it. It's a nice application, it's put together very well, it's very easy to navigate and to use, the graphics are good. So all round I think the look of the whole package is really good. There's a number of good features in there with the jamming and the ability to have a Spotify track running, to analyze those, to choose different amplifiers and different pedals and different tones, and to download from the tone cloud. So there's lots and lots of great features in there. Bluetooth is a big bonus. Obviously the Katana doesn't have Bluetooth, whereas this does, so I think that's a big benefit. And it's just an all-round nice package for the price. And I think that's one of the reasons why it's done very well, and I believe it's now the #1 selling amp in 2020. Hardly surprising with the huge marketing initiative that went on, and but I think, yeah, it's pretty good as far as that's concerned. Why have I only gone for 7 out of 10? I think I would drop a few marks for the humming issue, which is a little bit unfair considering that they addressed the issue very quickly, but I would have preferred that they would send out a grounded supply from the off, in particular into geographical areas where they must now know that there are issues. However, that might be now happening, so that again, that may well be unfair, but at the time of recording this video, that does seem to still be a little bit of an issue for some people, so I have marked them down there. Another one that's a little bit unfair is the lack of support for older iOS and laptop. In particular, I'd like to see a laptop version of the software. I do have a touchscreen laptop which I would be able to use, and that would be really nice. If we could have it in a web interface or something, then that would be fantastic. A number of people have asked for that. Whether it will come again in the future, I don't know. We will have to wait and see. So again, that could be a little bit unfounded. And as far as the looks, the on-off switch, it is a little bit cheap looking. It doesn't really fit with the other control knobs on the amplifier, and I just felt that let it down. So I know I'm going to get flamed. I know a lot of people are going to thumbs down this video because of what I've just said, but I think a 7 out of 10 is a relatively good score, and I am being a little bit picky, but that's just me. I like things to be just right. But for the price, I really don't think you can go far wrong. Now, I've gone through these questions and answers fairly quickly. If you want me to expand on any of these topics with examples where I have the ability to do so, then please comment below. If you like this video, then please give it a thumbs up. And if you are new to this channel and you would like to support me and follow along on my guitar journey learning to play the 6-string guitar, please hit that subscribe button and the bell for notifications of more videos coming very soon. So that is my relatively quick, I hope, overview of the Q&As and the questions that I've been receiving from people on YouTube and my other social media channels. So I hope you found it useful. Remember, I don't work for Positive Grid. I am nothing to do with any retailers of the amplifier. I'm not trying to sell the amplifier. This is just purely me as a beginner and my own personal thoughts on the amp, which I have to say I do love very much. I'm really pleased I bought it. I like it very much, and I'm looking forward to getting more and more and more into the features that the amp has to offer. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again on another video coming in the new year. In the meantime, I hope that you have a great 2021 New Year celebrations. A lot of us will be in lockdown, so stay safe, but enjoy yourself, and let's hope that 2021 is a better year than 2020. Thanks very much, take care, bye bye.